This story is titled, Parents Throw Me Out, just before my SATs because my golden sister wants to accommodate. Hey everyone! The channel's been slowing down a bit, and I spend so much time finding these stories for you. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button. It means the world and helps keep this journey going strong. Let's grow together. Now, let's start the video. OP starts by saying, Hey, I'm 17, and my life is officially a shit show right now. I've been prepping for the SATs for what feels like forever. You know, those stupid standardized tests that supposedly decide your entire future. Every day for months, I've been grinding through practice tests, flashcards, all that crap. My brain is fried, and I've been counting down the days until I can just get it over with. But then my family decided to absolutely fuck me over. And when I say family, I mean my sister Kelly, the queen of everything, and my parents, her loyal minions. Here's the deal. Kelly's getting married in 2 weeks. Big fancy wedding, the whole shebang. Fine, whatever, not my problem. Or at least, it wasn't until she announced that her 7 friends were flying in and needed somewhere to stay. And apparently, the only solution they could come up with was to kick me out of the house so her friends could have my room. Yes, you read that right. 7 fully grown adults are going to be crammed into our house. And the only way to make that work is for me to pack up my shit and leave. My parents didn't even have the decency to tell me ahead of time. Nope. They just casually dropped the bomb the night before her friends were supposed to arrive. I'd just finished a long-ass day of studying, and they sat me down like, oh, by the way, you need to pack up your stuff and be out by tomorrow. You're going to stay with your Aunt Linda for the next 2 weeks. I was like, wait, what? They explained that Kelly had promised her friends they'd stay at our house and that it was too late to change plans. My first thought was, why the hell didn't they just get a hotel? Kelly's wedding is costing a fortune. She's got catering, a DJ, custom decorations, all that. Couldn't they have spent a little more to book a room or two for her friends? I said exactly that, and my mom just sighed like I was being a brat. Hotels are expensive, and this is family. We're being hospitable. First of all, those are her friends, not family. Second, I didn't even know they were coming until 5 minutes ago. I tried to argue. I told them I couldn't just up and leave right before the SATs. Staying with Aunt Linda was going to completely screw me over. Her house is way out in the suburbs, nowhere near my testing center. And on top of that, Aunt Linda is a weirdo. She doesn't believe in Wi-Fi. Seriously, who even lives like that? So I'd be stuck burning through my data to study. But my parents didn't care. They were just like, you can take your books with you. You don't need the internet to study. Are you kidding me? I'm not prepping for a spelling bee here. The SATs are brutal. I need every resource I can get. And my parents are acting like I should be fine with a pencil and notebook. So then I suggested a compromise. I'd stay in the living room instead of giving up my room completely. There's plenty of space, and I could still have access to my study materials. Win-win, right? Wrong. My dad shut that down immediately. It's not appropriate to have guests sleeping in the living room when we have a full house. They're Kelly's friends, and they deserve to be comfortable. I swear I almost lost it right then and there. Like, am I not part of this family? Does my comfort not matter? I even brought up the fact that Kelly and Ryan, her fiancé, have their own apartment. Wouldn't it make more sense for her friends to stay there? But apparently, Kelly decided her apartment was off limits because she didn't want the stress of hosting people right before her wedding. Oh, but it's totally fine to dump that stress on me. At this point, I was getting desperate. I begged my parents to reconsider. I told them I couldn't afford to lose this much time so close to the SATs. I even offered to split the living room with her friends, just so I could stay in the house. But nope, my mom hit me with, we've made our decision. Don't be selfish, okay? This is Kelly's big moment, and we need to support her. Selfish. They called me selfish for not wanting to be kicked out of my own home. I kept pushing back, and that's when things got ugly. My dad finally snapped and said, if you don't pack your things and leave by tomorrow, we'll throw all your stuff out on the street. That was it. I couldn't argue anymore. They'd made up their minds, and nothing I said was going to change it. So I went to my room and started packing. I was so pissed I could barely think straight. I mean, how is this even real? How do you look at your own kid, someone who's working their ass off to get into college, and decide, yeah, let's kick them out so our daughter's friends can have a sleepover? A couple hours later, my mom came in all cheerful, like, we're so proud of you for making the right decision. This is a big sacrifice, but it shows you're willing to put family first. I didn't even respond. I just kept packing. Then she said, oh, by the way, you'll need to call Aunt Linda yourself to let her know you're coming. We haven't talked to her about this yet. Wait, what? They hadn't even asked Aunt Linda if I could stay with her. They just assumed she'd be fine with it and left it to me to figure out. That was the final straw. I completely lost it. I started yelling, asking how they could do this to me. And you know what my mom said? You're almost an adult. It's time you learn to take care of yourself. Almost an adult? I'm 17. And even if I was 18, they're still my parents. Isn't it literally their job to take care of me? At this point, I realized arguing wasn't going to get me anywhere. I'd already wasted too much energy trying to convince them to care about me, and it wasn't working, so I decided to stop playing nice. I started unpacking my bags and told them, I'm not going anywhere. You'll have to drag me out of here if you want me gone. That's when my dad stormed in and started yelling. He said I was being a brat and that I needed to grow up. My mom chimed in with some bullshit about how Kelly's friends deserve better treatment because they're guests. So after my parents completely failed me, I did something I probably should have known better than to try. I called Kelly. I was sitting on my bed, surrounded by half-packed bags, trying to wrap my head around how fucked my life was about to get. I thought, maybe, just maybe, she'll have an ounce of humanity and help me out. Honestly, I wasn't expecting much. Kelly and I have never been close. Scratch that. We can't stand each other. She's always been the golden child, and I've always been the problem. It's been that way for as long as I can remember. She's the favorite, the one who never does anything wrong, while I'm the one who gets blamed for breathing too loudly. But I figured desperate times, right? So I called her. The moment she picked up, she sounded annoyed, like I'd interrupted some earth-shattering wedding task. I said, Kelly, I need to talk to you. Mom and Dad are making me leave so your friends can stay in the house, and it's totally screwing me over. Her response? A loud, dramatic sigh. You know the kind. Why are you even bothering me with this? Sigh, but I kept going. I told her how important the SATs were, how Aunt Linda's place wasn't a good fit for studying, how far it was from my testing center, and how unfair it was that I had to leave my own home so her friends could crash here. That's when she hit me with the most cold-hearted, villain-level bullshit I've ever heard in my life. Put me on speaker, she said. I hesitated for a second, but did it. My parents were standing nearby, probably listening in anyway, so I figured, why not? Once she knew they could hear, she said, let me make this really clear. I promised my friends they could stay there, and I'm not breaking that promise. I don't care about your SATs, your studying, or any of your whining. If you don't have anywhere to go, then maybe you should just live on the streets. Live on the streets. She actually said that. And my parents? They didn't say a word. Not one word. They just stood there, letting her talk to me like that. She hung up right after, and I stood there in stunned silence. I couldn't believe it. Not only did she not give a single fuck about how this was going to affect me, but she also went out of her way to humiliate me in front of our parents. And the worst part? They didn't defend me. They didn't even look uncomfortable. That's when it hit me. I wasn't family to them. Not really. Kelly was the star, the center of their universe, and I was just there. I thought about arguing some more, but what was the point? I already knew how this was going to play out. So, without saying another word, I finished packing my stuff and left the room. When I got back to my room, I sat on my bed and stared at my phone. I felt like I was in some fucked up movie. Like, who even says that to their own sibling? Who tells a 17-year-old to live on the streets because they can't be bothered to find a better solution? I didn't cry. I was too angry for that. But I did feel this deep, gut-wrenching ache in my chest, like I'd finally hit my limit with these people. It wasn't just about this one situation. It was everything. Every time I'd been ignored. Every time Kelly had been prioritized. Every time I'd been made to feel like I didn't matter. It all came rushing back at once. And the worst part? I still had no plan. My parents clearly weren't going to back down, and Kelly definitely wasn't going to help me. I couldn't go to Aunt Linda's because I knew I wouldn't survive 2 weeks there, especially not before the SATs. That's when I decided to text my best friend, Sarah. Sarah and I have been best friends since middle school. She knows pretty much everything about my family. The favoritism, the constant put-downs, the way Kelly treats me like an inconvenience. She's heard it all. So when I texted her, "Can I stay with you for a while?" Long story, I'll explain later. Her response was immediate. Of course. Are you okay? I wasn't okay, but I didn't want to dump everything on her all at once. So I just said, I'll explain when I get there. Within an hour, I was out the door with my bags and heading to Sarah's place. My parents barely even acknowledged me as I left. My dad just said, "Good, you're making the right decision," like I was doing them a favor by getting the hell out. When I got to Sarah's house, her mom answered the door. She took one look at me and said, "What happened?" I hadn't planned on breaking down, but as soon as I stepped inside, it all came pouring out. The SATs, the forced eviction, Kelly's cruel phone call. It all spilled out in a jumble of words and anger. Sarah and her mom listened without interrupting, and by the time I finished, I felt a little lighter. Sarah's mom didn't even hesitate. She said, "You can stay here as long as you need to. We'll figure it out." That night, I slept in Sarah's guest room, surrounded by quiet and kindness. Two things I wasn't used to. I felt like a burden, sure, but at least I wasn't being actively ignored or insulted. It toughened sacrifice. The next few days were a blur. I focused on studying for the SATs, trying to push everything else out of my mind. It wasn't easy. Every time I tried to concentrate, Kelly's voice would pop into my head, "Go live on the streets." But Sarah was there for me every step of the way. She made sure I had space to study, brought me snacks when I forgot to eat, and even helped me review some practice questions. Her parents were just as amazing, constantly checking in and making sure I had everything I needed. It was a weird feeling. For the first time in forever, I felt supported. By the time SAT day rolled around, I was running on adrenaline and sheer determination. I wasn't going to let Kelly or my parents ruin this for me. I took the test, and honestly, I think I did pretty damn well considering everything. After the SATs were over, I spent a whole day decompressing. Well, trying to. But no matter what I did, I couldn't stop replaying everything that had happened. Kelly's words, my parents' apathy, and the sheer unfairness of it all just kept cycling through my head like a broken record. I realized I wasn't angry just because they kicked me out. It was deeper than that. I'd spent my whole life being treated like the afterthought of the family. Every damn time something came up, Kelly was their priority. Whether it was birthdays, school events, or even just normal family dinners, everything revolved around her. And this felt like the ultimate slap in the face. I wasn't even sure what I wanted to do about it. Part of me just wanted to shove it all down, keep my head down, and move on. But another part of me, the part that was sick and tired of being treated like garbage, wanted to do something. That's when I thought of Ryan. Ryan and I weren't exactly close, but we'd spent a decent amount of time around each other since he and Kelly got engaged. He always seemed like a nice enough guy, though I sometimes wondered what he saw in her. I mean, Kelly isn't exactly known for her sparkling personality. I debated for hours about whether or not to reach out to him. On the one hand, it wasn't really his business. On the other hand, he was about to marry someone who'd literally told her own sibling to go live on the streets. Didn't he deserve to know what he was getting into? Finally, I decided to go for it. I wasn't trying to ruin their relationship or anything. I just wanted him to know the truth. I sat down and typed out a message. "Hey Ryan, this is probably super weird, but I need to tell you something about what's been happening at home. I'm not trying to cause drama, but I think you should know about the way Kelly's been treating me. I'm not sure if she's mentioned it, but I've been kicked out of the house because her friends are staying here for the wedding. I've been studying for the SATs for months, and they decided last minute that I had to leave so her friends could have my room. I told her how much it was screwing me over, and she straight up told me to live on the streets. I'm not saying this to make you mad or anything. I just think you should know what kind of person she is before you marry her. If you want to talk more about it, I'm here." I read it over a dozen times before hitting send. My hands were shaking the entire time. I had no idea how he was going to react, or if he'd even respond at all. "Itu Wakadri," Ryan replied within an hour. "Hey, my name. I'm really sorry to hear about everything you're going through. Kelly hadn't told me anything about this. Can we meet up or talk on the phone? I want to hear the whole story." I was surprised he took it so seriously. I guess I half expected him to brush it off or defend Kelly, but he seemed genuinely concerned. We agreed to talk on the phone that night. When he called, I laid it all out for him. I told him about how I'd been preparing for the SATs, how my parents had given me less than 24 hours to pack up and leave, how Kelly had told me to live on the streets, and how none of them cared about the impact it was having on me. Ryan didn't say much while I was talking. He just listened, and I could tell he was getting angrier by the minute. By the time I finished, there was a long pause before he finally spoke. Wow. I don't even know what to say. That's not okay. At all. I could hear the frustration in his voice. He asked me a few more questions. How long this had been going on, whether my parents had tried to reach out to me, and if there were other incidents like this in the past. I didn't hold back. I told him about the years of favoritism, the way Kelly had always gotten away with treating me like crap, and how my parents had never once stood up for me. When the call ended, Ryan thanked me for being honest and said he needed some time to process everything. I wasn't sure what that meant, but I had a feeling things were about to blow up. The next morning, I woke up to a flurry of texts and missed calls from my parents. Apparently, Ryan had confronted Kelly about everything, and shit hit the fan. From what I heard later, the fight started with Ryan calmly asking Kelly why I'd been kicked out of the house. She tried to brush it off, saying it wasn't a big deal and that I was overreacting. But Ryan wasn't buying it. He pressed her, and eventually she admitted that she just didn't want me around. She said having me in the house would have been too stressful for her, and she didn't think it was a big deal since I could just stay somewhere else. When Ryan brought up the live on the streets comment, she apparently laughed it off like it was a joke. That's when he snapped. He told her she was selfish, heartless, and that he couldn't believe she'd treat her own sibling like that. Things escalated quickly, and by the end of the night, Ryan told her he couldn't go through with the wedding. When my parents called me, they were livid. "This is all your fault," my mom yelled. "Do you know what you've done? The wedding's off because of you." I tried to explain that all I did was tell Ryan the truth, but they weren't having it. They demanded I call him and fix it. "Fix what?" I snapped. "He made his decision because of her actions, not mine. If Kelly wants to save her relationship, maybe she should try apologizing for once in her life." They hung up on me after that. The fallout was even messier than I expected. Kelly was hysterical. She tried to spin the story to make it look like I was the bad guy, but no one was buying it, not even her closest friends. Apparently, Ryan had already told his family what happened, and they were fully on his side. As for me, I felt conflicted. On the one hand, I didn't mean to blow up her life, but on the other hand, she'd brought it on herself. All I did was tell the truth, and if that was enough to make Ryan rethink their entire relationship, maybe it wasn't as strong as Kelly thought. At the end of the day, I didn't regret reaching out to him. For once, someone in my family was being held accountable for their actions, and it felt damn good. After Ryan called off the wedding, my life got significantly messier. You'd think that being away from my parents and Kelly would mean I could finally catch a break, but nope. The fallout from all this hit me like a damn tsunami. First, there was my parents. They weren't just pissed, they were out for blood. They must have called me 20 times in one day, alternating between screaming at me and trying to guilt trip me into fixing the situation. "Do you realize how much money we've spent on this wedding?" my mom shrieked during one of her rants. "All of it down the drain because of your little stunt!" As if it was my fault Kelly was a heartless jerk. My dad wasn't any better. His angle was all about family loyalty. He kept going on about how I was supposed to support Kelly, not tear her down. He even accused me of being jealous, which was laughable. What the hell was I supposed to be jealous of? Her massive ego? Her ability to manipulate everyone around her? When I wouldn't cave, my parents started sending flying monkeys after me. Aunts, uncles, cousins, you name it. I got bombarded with texts and calls from people I hadn't spoken to in months. Some of them were polite but insistent, saying I should try to smooth things over for the sake of the family. Others were downright nasty, calling me selfish, immature, and in one case, a spiteful little brat. But here's the thing. Not everyone bought into their narrative. Turns out, Ryan didn't just confront Kelly. He told his whole family why he was calling off the wedding. And unlike my parents, his family wasn't about to sweep it under the rug. Within days, the story started spreading. My parents were furious, accusing me of ruining our reputation. They didn't seem to grasp that the more they tried to control the narrative, the worse it made them look. I started getting messages from extended family members, people who weren't part of the Flying Monkey Brigade. Some of them apologized for how I'd been treated, and a few even said they'd noticed the favoritism over the years, but hadn't known how bad it was. It was weird, having people suddenly acknowledge what I'd been dealing with my whole life. But honestly, the most satisfying messages came from Ryan's family. His sister reached out to me personally and thanked me for speaking up. She said they'd always had reservations about Kelly, but didn't want to interfere. Apparently, my story was the final confirmation they needed. Meanwhile, Kelly was imploding. Her social media turned into a pity party overnight. She posted vague statuses about being betrayed by people she trusted and losing everything. Of course, she left out the part where she told her little sister to live on the streets. Her friends weren't buying it, though. A few of them started commenting things like, "This isn't the whole story, is it?" And, "What about my name?" It wasn't long before Kelly turned off the comments altogether. I heard through the grapevine that she was trying to reconcile with Ryan. She even showed up at his place unannounced, but he refused to let her in. Apparently, he told her that unless she apologized to me and fixed things with our family, there was no chance they'd get back together. Of course, Kelly being Kelly, she refused to apologize. She told him she didn't owe me anything and accused him of overreacting. That's when he officially ended things. Back at Sarah's house, I was finally starting to feel like I could breathe again. Her parents had been nothing but supportive, even after hearing about all the chaos I'd inadvertently caused. Sarah joked that I was like a live-action soap opera, but in a way that made me laugh instead of cringe. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of guilt. Not for telling Ryan the truth. I stood by that 100%. But for the way everything had spiraled afterward. It wasn't my intention to destroy Kelly's wedding or blow up her relationship. All I'd wanted was for someone, anyone, to see what I'd been dealing with. One night, Sarah's mom sat me down and said something that really stuck with me. "Sweetheart, this isn't your fault. You didn't create this mess. Your family did. All you did was hold up a mirror and they didn't like what they saw." That was the first time in a long while that I felt validated. A few days later, my grandparents showed up. They'd been on my side from the beginning, but seeing them in person was a whole different kind of comfort. They didn't waste any time. Within an hour of arriving, my grandpa was on the phone with my parents, laying down the law. He told them in no uncertain terms that I wasn't coming back to their house and that they needed to figure out their priorities. "Your daughter isn't a piece of furniture you can move around whenever it's convenient," he said. I didn't hear my parents' response, but I'm guessing it wasn't pleasant because my grandpa hung up looking pissed. My grandparents also started making arrangements for my future. They offered to take full custody of me, which was honestly a relief. They told me I could stay with them once I graduated high school, and they'd even help me with college expenses. Hearing that was like a weight being lifted off my chest. For the first time, I felt like I had a solid plan, a way to move forward without depending on people who clearly didn't give a damn about me. As for Kelly, she's been radio silent. I haven't heard a word from her since Ryan ended things, and honestly, I'm fine with that. From what I've gathered, she's still trying to spin the situation in her favor. But it's not working. Too many people know the truth now, and her victim act isn't holding up. I'd like to say I feel bad for her, but I don't. Not really. She made her choices, and now she's dealing with the consequences. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm not trapped under her shadow anymore. With my grandparents stepping in and taking charge, I finally started to feel like I wasn't fighting this battle alone anymore. It's wild how much can change when someone actually gives a damn about you. For the first time in years, I felt like things might actually turn out okay. But that doesn't mean everything magically got better overnight. After my grandparents' phone call with my parents, the dust hadn't exactly settled. My parents tried to play the victim card, claiming I was turning the whole family against them. My mom apparently told my grandparents that I manipulated the situation and exaggerated everything just to make them look bad. My grandpa wasn't having it. He told them flat out, "If your version of being a good parent involves throwing your kid out for a wedding, then maybe you deserve to look bad." That was the last time they spoke directly. My grandparents told me that as far as they were concerned, my parents had forfeited their right to be part of my life. Meanwhile, I was adjusting to living at Sarah's house full-time. It wasn't exactly how I imagined my senior year of high school going, but her family made it as smooth as possible. Sarah's parents even sat me down one night to talk about the future. They wanted to make sure I felt secure and knew that I wasn't overstaying my welcome. I broke down a little when they said, "You're not just a guest. You're family now." Hearing that was something I didn't even realize I needed. I started to feel lighter, like I wasn't carrying everything on my own anymore. Sarah and I got into a routine, studying together, watching dumb shows on Netflix, and just hanging out like normal teenagers. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells. At school, though, things were complicated. Word about the wedding fiasco spread fast, and it wasn't long before classmates started asking questions. I'm not sure how much they knew, but enough to start whispering about me in the hallways. "Did you hear she got her sister's wedding canceled?" "Yeah, I heard her sister's fiance dumped her because of something she said." I tried to ignore it, but let's be real. It sucked. I wasn't exactly popular to begin with, and this just made me feel even more isolated. Sarah, bless her, went full protective mode. She shut down any rumors she overheard and even confronted a group of kids who were making jokes about me. It was embarrassing, but also kind of sweet. She kept reminding me, "They don't know the whole story. Fault them." On the home front, my grandparents weren't wasting any time. They started working on the legal process to transfer custody, which meant more phone calls with lawyers and family members. My dad, in a last-ditch effort to save face, tried to guilt-trip them by saying, "You're breaking up the family." My grandma fired back, "No, you did that the moment you chose to abandon your daughter." I overheard the call, and I couldn't help but feel this weird mix of pride and sadness. It was comforting to have someone standing up for me, but it also drove home how much my parents had failed me. Eventually, they signed the papers, and just like that, my grandparents officially had custody of me. Once that was settled, my grandparents started planning for what came next. They wanted me to move in with them as soon as the school year ended, but they left the decision up to me. I told them I wanted to stay with Sarah until graduation. As much as I loved my grandparents for stepping up, Sarah and her family had become my safe space, and I wasn't ready to leave just yet. They were totally fine with that, and even promised to visit as often as they could. In the meantime, my grandparents started making arrangements for college. They'd always been good with money, and they assured me I wouldn't have to worry about tuition or living expenses. It was a massive weight off my shoulders. As for Kelly, well, let's just say things weren't looking too great for her. Ryan had officially moved on. From what I heard, he'd started seeing someone new. Someone who wasn't a manipulative brat, apparently. Kelly, on the other hand, was still trying to claw her way back into everyone's good graces. She posted a long, dramatic rant on social media about how she was misunderstood and how people shouldn't judge her without knowing the full story. It didn't take long for the comments to flood in, most of them calling her out for being fake. My favorite comment? If you're misunderstood, then why did your fiancé dump you a week before the wedding? Seems like he understood you perfectly. She deleted the post after that. I still haven't spoken to Kelly or my parents, and honestly, I don't plan to. Blocking them was probably the best decision I've ever made. There's a part of me that wonders if they'll ever apologize, but I'm not holding my breath. If there's one thing this whole mess has taught me, it's that I don't need their approval. Or anyone's, really. Looking ahead, things are finally starting to feel hopeful. I'm doing well in school, I've got solid plans for college, and I'm surrounded by people who actually care about me. It's weird to think about how much has changed in such a short time. A few weeks ago, I felt completely powerless. Now, I feel like I'm finally in control of my life. To everyone who's been following this story and offering advice, thank you. Seriously, you've all reminded me that I'm not alone, even when things feel impossible. Here's to moving forward.